Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're going to pull back the curtain on something called CMMI version 3.0. Now that might sound a little corporate and jargony, but stick with me because it's really a powerful blueprint for helping any organization get way better at what they do. So let me start with a question. Have you ever been part of a project that just went off the rails? The deadline keeps slipping, the budget gets blown, and the final product isn't quite what everyone hoped for. We've all been there, right? It's a super common problem, but why does it happen so often?
Well, the culprit? It's almost always process. Or, to be more accurate, a lack of one. When there's no consistent, shared way of doing things, when every team just wings it, well, you end up in a constant state of firefighting. It's unpredictable, it's reactive, and honestly, it's just chaotic.
And that's exactly the problem that CMMI, that's Capability Maturity Model Integration, was designed to solve. Now, it's not some crazy, rigid set of rules you have to follow blindly. Think of it more like a greatest hits album of best practices. It's a framework that helps companies improve their quality, their performance, and their profitability by taking a hard look at how they get work done.
So, if you remember one thing from this whole explainer, make it this. Forget any ideas about CMMI being a bunch of red tape or paperwork. That's not it at all. The best way to think about it is as a blueprint. It's a guide for building really good, really valuable business habits that actually stick.
All right, so if it's a blueprint, what does it actually look like? Well, to understand it, we're going to take a quick tour through the four main categories that make up the entire CMMI model. Everything in CMMI, and I mean everything, slots into one of these four buckets. You've got doing, which is, the actual work, managing, which is how you plan and steer the ship, enabling, which is all the support stuff that holds everything together, and finally, improving, which is all about making sure you don't stand still. Let's dive into each one.
First up is doing. This is the engine room, right? This is where the rubber meets the road. It's all the hands-on engineering, all the development, all the activities that go into actually creating and delivering your product or service. Now, here's a perfect example of how a really simple practice can have a massive, massive impact. Peer reviews. This isn't your boss checking your work. It's just having a teammate, a peer, take a look. The whole idea is to catch mistakes early. And the value? Well, finding a typo in a document is easy. Finding a fundamental flaw in your product after it's shipped to 1 million customers? Whoa, that is an expensive, painful problem. Peer reviews help prevent that. Okay, and this slide? This clears up so much confusion. Inside that doing category are two ideas that sound similar but are totally different. Verification and validation. Verification asks, are we building it right? Does it match the design specs? But validation asks a much bigger question. Are we building the right thing? Does this actually solve the customer's problem? You can perfectly build the wrong thing, so you absolutely need both. All right, let's move on. Next up is the managing category. So if doing is the engine, managing is you in the driver's seat. It's the steering wheel, it's the dashboard, it's all about planning the trip, watching for hazards, and making sure the whole team is set up for success.
And a fantastic example here is risk and opportunity management. This is the difference between being proactive and reactive. Instead of just waiting for fires to pop up and then scrambling, this practice makes you look down the road. What could go wrong? How do we prepare? And just as important, what could go right? Are there any unexpected opportunities we could jump on? It's about playing chess, not checkers.
Our third stop is enabling. Think of these as the foundational pillars holding everything else up. You've got the engine and the driver, but what's the chassis of the car made of? This category covers critical support functions like how you make decisions, how you manage your data, and how you ensure things are safe and secure.
And here's a practice that honestly can transform a team's culture. It's called Decision Analysis and Resolution, or DAR. It sounds kind of formal, but it's really simple. Instead of making big calls based on gut feelings or whoever has the loudest voice in the room, DAR gives you a structured way to weigh your options against what actually matters. It just makes your decisions smarter and way more objective. And that brings us to our final stop, improving. This right here is what separates the good organizations from the truly great ones. It's all about creating a culture that is never satisfied, a culture that learns from its mistakes, learns from its successes, and then uses that knowledge to get better and better over time. This is the engine of innovation. So we've got these four big categories of best practices. But how does a company know where they stand? How do they find a path from chaos to, well, excellence?
CMMI gives you a really clear roadmap for that. And this is that path. It's measured in 5 maturity levels. Look, at level 1, you're in total firefighting mode. It's chaos. At level 2, you start to get things under control, but it's on a project-by-project basis. The real magic starts at level 3, where the entire organization agrees on a standard, defined way of working. And then at the top, levels 4 and 5, you're not just following the process, you're using data and stats to fine-tune it and constantly innovate. Each level builds on the one before it.
But here's the thing. Getting a certificate that says you're level 3 is a nice achievement for sure, but it's not the real goal. The true lasting value of CMMI is about something much deeper than passing a test.
This quote from an Isaka Tech Talk just hits the nail on the head, right? If you're going to go through all the work and investment to get better, you don't want it all to just fade away after the audit is over. You want those improvements to last. And the 2 key words here are persistent and habitual. The ultimate goal is to make these good processes part of your company's DNA. They become muscle memory. It's just how we do things around here. It's not something you do to cram for an appraisal. It's something you do because it's the best way to work. That's when you know the change is real. And let's be real for a second. For those habits to actually stick, leadership has to be all in. This can't be a grassroots effort alone. Senior management has to set the vision, provide the money and the training, and, this is the big one, hold people accountable. Their active, visible support is probably the single biggest predictor of success. It has to come from the top.
So, if you were zoning out, come on back to me for this one point. CMMI isn't a checklist of what to do. It's a framework for how you do it. It's about building those strong, persistent, valuable process habits that become the foundation for everything else. Better quality, happier teams, and yeah, real business results.
And that kind of brings me to a final thought for you. Forget the whole big CMMI model for a second. Just think about your own work, your own team. What's one small process habit, just one, that could make a real difference for you guys starting tomorrow? Maybe it's a quick peer review. Maybe it's just writing down the options before making a decision. What's that one habit you could start building?